Can commitment change everything? Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast discussing meditation, the near-death experience, spiritually inspirational and transformative experiences. Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. I'm your host, author, and teacher, Jay Spillers. Please do like, subscribe, and share everywhere. Well, last week we talked about having intention in meditation. And I wanted to kind of expand this out to commitment in your life. And obviously, with commitment, you have to have the intention. You're intending to do something, you're intending to change something, you're intending to go in a certain direction. And making commitments in your life can be a transforming experience, can be a transformative experience, because it crystallizes a choice in your mind. Basically, it requires you to focus on that. And it sets a direction for you. Much like in meditation, when you set an intention, you commit to something, you're going in a certain direction. And to make a really strong commitment, you have to sort of just burn the bridges. You have to let everything else go and say, this is what we're doing now. This is the focus we're going on now. So commitment can really make that difference for you. It is partly involved in setting goals, because it's like when you set a goal, you're really narrowing down what you want to do, where you want to go with things. And they did a study from Harvard, this was like decades ago, where they had a bunch of students in Harvard. Some of them had set goals and some of them hadn't set goals. And then they came back 35 years later to see how everyone did. And the ones that set goals for their life had gone much further than the ones who had not set goals. And basically, goal setting, committing yourself, being ready to make changes and to know where you want to go. This is fundamental in all self-help programs. Like if you take a Tony Robbins program, they're going to have you set goals, make commitments, say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going back. This is the direction I'm going. And so when you make that commitment, it changes the psychology in your mind. It makes it more real. It makes it more concrete for you. It does crystallize it in your brain for you. And I think besides just making it more real for you, a lot of times it, in a metaphysical sense, can move God, can move the universe more in your direction. Kind of like in the law of attraction, they always say, well, get clear on what you want. It's like, what is it that you want? What do you want in your life, in your personal life, in your relationships, in your finances, whatever it is? Like, get specific and then commit to moving in that direction. Because that's when you start to see results. That's when you start to see change. That's when things are brought to you. But you have to have the focus to move forward. And what are the areas that we can make commitments in to better our lives? Well, I had originally thought of 5, and then I thought, well, there's really 6. Obviously, you have to make a commitment in your emotional life. And some of these commitments can be, I want to do things like start a meditation program, because it's like, you can be out here thinking, I'd really like to meditate. Meditation's a good thing. Maybe one day I'll meditate. But it's like, no, you commit to it. You set as a goal, you plan it. Every day at such and such time, or in the afternoon or whatever, for such and such length of time, I'm going to meditate. So maybe for you, that would be like every day at 7 a.m. from 7 to 7:20, I'm going to be meditating, and just commit to it. Set it as a goal. And if you miss a day or two, you get right back into it. Make it a priority. Commitment prioritizes. When you don't have the commitment, you don't prioritize it. So what other kind of emotional goals could you have for yourself? I picked meditation. What else could you do to improve your emotional health? Well, maybe you have a gratitude journal. Sit down and write down the things you're grateful for and then reference it. What can I be grateful for each day? And then look at that list every day. A commitment to gratitude for my emotional health. And then maybe a second area would be physical health. What can you commit to improve the quality of your life physically? Maybe you're going to start exercising. I'm going to commit to 30 minutes of exercise 4 times a week. And maybe you try to pick a time that you do it in the morning, at 10 o'clock or whatever. The more specific you get, the more likely it is that you're going to follow through. But what can you commit to in your physical life to improve your well-being, to improve your physical life? Maybe it's changing something in your diet. A third area is in the area of finances. What can you change in your finances? What can you commit to doing to have better finances? Maybe you want to commit to giving a certain amount to charity. Maybe you want to commit to savings. Like I'm going to save a certain percentage of my income each month, or I'm going to invest, or whatever would improve you financially, or do something worthwhile financially. And then fourth would be relationships. What can I do? What can I commit to that would improve relationships? I'm going to commit to telling the people in my life that I love them each day. I'm going to try to be more calm and present with them. Whatever it is, what can you do in your relationships to improve them? And the fifth thing was in faith, in spirituality. And this is one thing you notice in Christianity, is that we have the point where we commit our life to God, commit our life to Christ, and we do so to basically set the direction of our life and to call upon God to be central in our life, because it's kind of like it talks about in Romans 10 verse 9 and 10, it talks about if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord, you would be saved. And what is the essence of salvation? Well, the essence of salvation is being restored to wholeness. And so when I commit, when I confess it, when I make it concrete and I call upon God, I'm setting forth the step to find wholeness in my life. And maybe that's something you'd want to do, is just commit your life to Christ. Commit your life to God. You can say it however you want, pray it, what have you, but just concretely commit your life to God. And if you've already done that, just have a daily, weekly time where you say, God, I need to commit to a focus with you, because it's kind of like we talk about, you've committed your life at one point in time to God, but it's sort of like we kind of need to do that each day to kind of refresh ourselves, to bring us back to that point. Because we always have a tendency in faith and spirituality to kind of wander all over the place. But if we can just sort of commit daily to a spiritual path, to the spiritual path, it sort of brings us back. And that's something you probably might need to do from time to time with the other areas of your life, that you committed to meditating, you get going good for a couple months, and then you kind of wander for a while. And then you just sort of get back, recommit, and then go forward, And if you have a goal, sometimes you have to refocus on the goal. Sometimes you may even make little changes, like I've committed to meditating 20 minutes a day, and now I'm ready to up the ante. I'm going to meditate 30 minutes a day. And sometimes you can make changes like that. Or if I committed to morning meditation and it's not really working, maybe I'll try an afternoon meditation. Maybe that would be a better fit for me. And sometimes if your life changes, you may need to reevaluate. If your job situation changes and morning was good before, but now afternoon's going to be better, do that. And the same thing would be in your spiritual life. If you commit to praying and scripture reading, and the morning was great, but now things have changed, maybe I switch to an afternoon schedule on it. You're keeping the same goal in essence, but maybe you're making some changes, some tinkering with it. And that's perfectly fine, is to sometimes make changes depending on where you are in life. Keep the commitment, but maybe change how you apply it in some cases. So that was the fifth category, was the spiritual. But then I thought, well, there's really a sixth area of commitment that sometimes may come up. And that's commitment to others. Maybe you want to do community service work, charity work, or you want to be of greater service to your family, or serve your nation in some way, or the world, and you have an idea. It could be a grandiose thing, but it could be a really small thing. Maybe you have the time and ability to commit an hour a week to help at a soup kitchen, and you want to do that you could make a commitment there. This is really where our life changes, because a lot of times you commit to doing something for others and it ends up helping you in some way too. Because if you do service to others, it can help your emotional and physical health in some cases. So, and sometimes, for my own emotional health, I will do outreach to others. So they work hand in hand. It's not like each of these 6 categories are like in their own individual box or mutually exclusive. I do the spiritual, and that doesn't necessarily help in the others. Of course it does, because a lot of times when you're spiritually in tuned, your emotional health will improve and your physical health will improve, and it will motivate you to improve in these other areas. It has a way of building momentum as you do it, as you follow through with your commitments. But then it also has a way of expanding out and encouraging you to go forward in positive ways in other areas too. So commitment is very important in that way. So we looked at the areas where you'd commit to your physical health, your emotional health, your relationships, your finances, your spiritual, and to others. But you have to be clear on the why, because you have to have a good reason to want to do this. Because if you're just like, well, I'm going to commit for my emotional health to meditate. I don't know why I'm going to do that. It's like somebody told me it was a good idea, but you have to have a why. So it's like, what is your desire for doing this? How is this going to improve your emotional health other than a vague idea it's going to help? Well, maybe for you, it's like, it's going to help me relieve stress. It's going to help me to relax. It's going to help me to have clarity of thoughts. It's going to improve my mental clarity. It's going to help me to be more calm when I'm interacting with people. And of course, meditation can be spiritually beneficial too, as it could help you to become more in tune with God in your spiritual life. So be clear on the desires of why you want to do it. And sometimes, let's be honest, one of the whys that we commit to something is out of fear. Like, well, if I don't change something in my physical life, I'm going to have health problems. Like maybe I'm going to have increased heart problems, or I'm going to get cancer. In the spiritual realm, sometimes people are like, well, I'm going to commit my life to God and Christ because I don't want to go to hell. And, whether those things are completely true or not, whether they're completely understood or not, sometimes the fear can be an initial reason as to why you do something. Now, hopefully it doesn't stay in that realm where, I initially got into spirituality, or I initially got into improving my physical or emotional health because I was fearful of such and such. Hopefully it doesn't just stay in the fear realm, because that's kind of a low level motivation. It can only take you so far, and for a lot of people, they're like, it doesn't really motivate them. Hopefully you move beyond the fear into a genuine desire to improve your life, to go in a better direction, to become the kind of person you want to be, to have the kind of health, well-being, spiritual life that you really want for yourself. It's kind of like we talk about in spirituality and Christianity. Talk about, well, commit your life to God, not just for the fear of hell, but I want to go to heaven, the kind of the big incentive of heaven. And I think that's true, but in a sense, I read something interesting a couple days ago. It's not really so much that we go to heaven, but it's more a matter of we grow into heaven. That heaven is within us. It's a state of being. It's love, peace, kindness, it's beauty, it's truth. And that as we embrace the light and grow from within spiritually and connect to God, heaven starts to expand and manifest in our life. So it's not really so much a matter of going to heaven way out here when you die, though you will do that. It's more a matter of growing heaven within you and having it expand out. If that makes any sense. If the kingdom of God is within you, then essentially you unlock the door, swing the door open, and allow the presence of heaven to expand outward from you and to grow within you. And I think that's a more powerful understanding of heaven and going to heaven, but it's really a growing to heaven. So we have the why. It could be fear, it could be a desire to improve one's life. I think there's a third factor that could be at play too. And don't discard this one. I think we can commit because we love. Because we love ourselves enough to want to be better, to want something better for ourselves. We can love others enough to where we commit because it's in their best interest and it will make them happier and enjoy life more. And I think we can love God enough to where we want to grow in spirituality. We love God and then we feel the love emanate back to us. So love can be a third motivating factor, a third why as to why we do something. It's kind of interesting. I had thought about this analogy when we talk about commitment. What's the difference between living together and being married? And this is an interesting question because obviously you can live together. You share a house together. You give some level of companionship to each other. You share finances, go on vacations together, pay bills together, and you might even be intimate with each other. So it's like, okay, well, if all of that's going on and we're living together, what's the difference between that and being married then? It's kind of an interesting question. Well, the obvious difference is the level of commitment. I mean, a lot of people, they don't make the commitment because they're afraid of legal issues, like, well, what if we get divorced and then, this other person takes half my stuff, or, I don't think they'd sign a prenup and whatever. I mean, yeah, that plays into it, but I think even beyond the legal issues, it's the level of commitment that you have, because when you get married, at least as we understand it, is that you generally, I'm going to stand in most cases in a church or in a house of worship before a whole bunch of witnesses, and I'm going to take vows, and I'm going to take vows to this other person, and I'm going to take vows to God, and I'm going to have a minister in front of me who's going to be, hearing the vows and, signing off on them. So it's like there's a level of commitment that just goes like way up here when you get married, So it's like, it just says something about our society today. It's like, we're good living together and doing the things we all associate with marriage, but for some reason we just don't want to do the commitment. So it's like a lot of people live together. And, ironically, a lot of times the people give for living together is, well, we want to make sure it's right, and, we don't want to just rush into it. But ironically, is the data shows that the people that live together first have higher rates of divorce when they ultimately do get married. So it really doesn't, achieve what most people think it's going to achieve. I'm just talking from, a sociological standpoint in the studies that have been done. I'm not, even making a moral judgment on it. I'm just saying this is what the social science says on it. So take it what it's worth, is that when you make the level of commitment and you burn the bridge and you say, okay, once I commit to this person, it's not just an empty vow, but I'm going to really take the vow for life, and there's no going back. I can't always control what this other person is going to do. They may divorce me, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing this thing for life. Hopefully you find someone that is of the same mindset on that, But commitment crystallizes it in our mind, as we said. Commitment makes it real. Commitment changes your mind, your goals, if you will. Everything changes when you really get committed, when you really concretely make a commitment. So that's the whys of commitment. So how do you commit? What are the ways that you can commit? Well, obviously, you can speak a commitment. You can essentially commit verbally to something. Like we said with marriage, you take vows in a church. You make vows. You're speaking them. That's one way to make a commitment. And it's good to have that accountability, because it's sort of like when you're in the church getting married, you have the other witnesses. So all these other people behind you are seeing you making these vows. So it's like, oh, I better take this seriously, because it's not just me saying it to her, but it's me saying it to a room full of people and a minister in front of me, and to God, if you believe in God, obviously, so you can speak it. You can make a commitment in writing. And that's kind of like, when you make a contract, obviously you're making a commitment, and there can be consequences if you break the contract in a legal sense. But then there's also, sitting down and writing your goals out for the year, writing your goals out for the week, writing your goals out for the day. That's one way to make a commitment. And I found that having a daily set of goals, a daily list of to-dos, helps me to stay more focused, helps me to achieve more than if I just kind of, go with the flow, don't really do anything. And that's the whole point, is that when you don't sit down and commit it to writing or verbally commit it, you kind of just tend to float. You don't really go anywhere. So that's two hows of how you may commit. Write it down, speak it. But then there's a third one, and that's essentially commit by meditation, where you basically meditate on it. You see yourself doing it. You can visualize it. You can affirm it, do affirmations. But you can use that as a way to do commitment too, meditation. And by the way, on the speaking one, besides just praying it and speaking it out loud, is you can do prayer. Because like when you speak to God and he's like, God, I want to commit my life to you. I want to commit my life to your ways. Well, you can pray it straight to God and make that commitment that way. And then you can go into a meditation and you can affirm that commitment to God, or affirm whatever it is you want to be committed to. You can visualize it. You can make it real. You can sit in the presence of God, so to speak. And sometimes you could even write it down in a journal, have prayer journals, have spiritual journals. I've written spiritual journals over the years about what I think God was showing me, or what God wanted me to do. And, it's sort of a way to start building those level of commitment. Because commitment is obviously what I intend to do, but it's sort of building upon what I set out to do. So it's like day by day, I'm going to be committing further, or refreshing my commitment, as we talked about earlier. You have the one day in church where you get married, but then you live it out each day. And it's like, okay, maybe I wasn't as committed yesterday to her, but today I'm going to renew my commitment in my marriage to be better as a spouse or a husband and wife, and it's the same thing, it's like, okay, I committed, maybe in a church too, to serve God, or I got baptized, and I made that initial commitment in prayer and in baptism and all these things. But now today I'm going to try to walk it out and really live it. So it's like commitment isn't just a one-time thing, but it's an ongoing thing that you continually bring yourself back to. It's sort of like, remember in meditation, we have the intent, and then sometimes we still kind of wander. So we just gently bring ourselves back to that intention. Gently bring yourself now back to the commitments that you're making, And you could extend it in a lot of different ways. Okay, I missed my exercise routine yesterday, so I'm picking it up today, doing it, recommitting every day to those things that are important to me. So why don't we close our eyes now, and we'll just think about these 6 areas, and maybe areas where you can commit to something or recommit, and we'll just look at them. So just close our eyes, allow yourself to get comfortable. We'll take a few deep breaths. Breathe in deeply through your nose. Hold. And gently exhale through your mouth slowly. Take in another deep breath. And exhale. Breathe in deeply. And exhale. Now let's focus first on your physical health. What's one thing in your physical health, in your body, for your body, that you'd like to improve, that you can make a commitment on? Maybe you've made this commitment in the past and you need to renew it. Maybe you need to make some changes in the commitment. But you think of a commitment now. Maybe it's a brand new commitment that you've never done. What is something you can commit to right now for your physical health? Just take a moment and think about what you can commit to. How you'll do this commitment, how it's going to play out, how you can make this happen is what I'm saying. Visualize yourself doing what you're committing to physically. Just a moment. Maybe you're outside walking or running, or you've chose to eat a certain way or whatever. Now let's move on to our emotional health. What is something you can commit or recommit to in your emotional health? What's something that will improve your well-being? Something you can do on a regular basis, possibly on a daily basis. How are you going to make this happen? Visualize yourself doing that activity. If it's something like meditating, maybe you're meditate right now, see yourself meditating. You'd already start to be doing that commitment. Started the process. But whatever that activity is, just see yourself doing it for just a moment. Turn to your finances. Is there anything you can change in your finances that you can commit to? Could be a large thing, could be a small thing. Could be saving a few dollars, not buying this or that. Be as simple as I'll make my coffee at home instead of buying it at Starbucks, save myself $5 a day, whatever. What is something you can commit to in your finances? Maybe it's a big thing that will improve your financial well-being. Maybe put a few more dollars in your wallet or in your bank account, whatever it is. How can you do that? Visualize yourself following through on that commitment. Now in your relationships, what is something you can do right now, you can commit to improve your relationships? Could be something great, could be something small. Could be something as simple as saying I love you more frequently, giving a few more hugs, trying to listen more, trying to understand where the person's coming from. Could be a lot of different things. What is something you can commit to improve your relationships right now? Turn to your spiritual life. What's something you can commit to in your spiritual life that could make things better? You just want to pray to God and say, God, I want to commit my life to you. I want to be more in line with what you would have for me. I want you to be at the center of my life. Pray that. Visualize yourself doing that. Maybe it's just praying every day, starting a more consistent prayer life, reading scripture, reading inspirational spiritual books, listening to something spiritual on YouTube. Lots of different avenues here. What can you commit to spiritually that could make your life better? Visualize yourself doing that right now. Now finally, we'll go to the last area, others. What can I do to help others? Is there volunteer work you can do? Can you be more kind to strangers? Smile more? What is something you can do, great or small, right now, and commit to it? How are you going to do that? Visualize yourself doing it. This is very similar, obviously, to the relationship one we did earlier, but it isn't limited to people you're in a relationship with. It could be the checker at the grocery store being a little more polite, courteous, kind. But it could be in your relationships too. Now, we'll start to come back to the room. Take in one final deep breath. Breathe in through your nose. Hold. Slowly exhale. When you're ready, you can open your eyes.